Here you see all the blades, your two blades, that the sample that we're making it to, and these are the 4 different sizes we made as samples. This one here is the same size as your original blade, and you can see the thickness is 1 inch 257 thousandths. That's roughly a 1 1/4 inch thick blade. The original blades are 1 1/4 inch thick. You can see the dullness right on the edge right there. That dullness of interest, if you was to measure how thick that dullness is, or how dull it is, if you wanted to take off the side only, you can measure that by simply coming over to the edge and coming down to touch it, and you can see 2 inches 39 thousandths. 2 inches 39 thousandths is how far down the blade is from the edge. I hope you can see that. It's quite clear. That's how much the roundness is, or the edge is. So if you was to grind the surface of this knife right now, it would become sharp. As you can see, a little dullness right there, and that dullness does not protrude below this surface right here. It does not. I'm going to go up and I'm going to go down on it. Hopefully you can see it a little better. That particular edge. There it is. That's where it's rounded off or dull. Okay, rounded off and dull. Again, that is 239. Okay, so it was 257. Let's measure that again. I'm going to put this right over on the top. I'm going to come down, and that says, well, it was 257, but right now it's 260. 257, here it is again. Okay. Let's see if I can get it steady enough. 257. Now we're going to come back around and focus as best we can on that edge. Again, it's on the main surface. So, what that means in plain old English is, if I was to flatten this surface off right here, flatten it off, it would become sharp the minute I get below (1 inch 239 thousandths). So if I went down 1 inch, say if I went down right there, it's 257. If I went down 230, okay, that'd take about 25 thousandths off. As you can see, this knife has really been abused. Now we'll take this knife out and we'll replace it with one that's not quite as abused, but another used knife. This is a used knife. This is what we're building to as a sample. Okay. Again, we'll come down. You can see there it makes contact, and the thickness is 256. 2 inches 56. So the knives are not exactly the same height from the factory, but you can see this one here is not quite as dull as this one. Not quite as dull. Okay, you can see that. Let me get it back a little bit. You can see the reflection that this knife is much duller than this knife. This knife would probably take about 15 thousandths to come off, to straighten it up. This knife would probably require about 22 to 25 thousandths because of the more roundness on that edge. So these are the knives that y'all provided as a sample. These are the knives that we provided as a sample. Notice there's no shiny reflection because it's sharp. It's a sharp knife. Okay, that's one size. That's another size, another size, another size. Each one 100 thousandths thicker. So there is no way that I can give you a price, or could have given you a price back when I built these samples, until you decided on which one you wanted. And Paul, I believe, in consultation with Charlie, I'm not really sure about that, who came up with the size. That's a 400,000 one there. And then this is the size that I believe everybody decided on right here. As you can see, we'll lower the height gauge down, and you can see it's 600, roughly 600 thousandths thick. Now, that's actually thicker than you need for 10 regrinds. The hope was that I could give you maybe more than 10, if you know what I'm saying. Maybe 12 or 13, 14 regrinds. But I can tell you that anybody that tells you you cannot sharpen a knife by sharpening the top of it, well, let's just say that they don't understand how knives are sharpened. A scissor is sharpened on the top when you want to sharpen a scissor. The original tire blades were made of a circular machine part that was ground on the face and the top of the face. And that's how they did them from day one. The first one ever made was more like a nibbler. These are like nibblers too, but not the same. So anyhow, this here's the reason why we never could give you a price. Only could talk about a deposit. Here's some of the knives that we have in process already. You can see right on down through there, quite a few of them already in process. You can see them now. I'm gonna go around. Here's knives here that are in the process of being processed, and over here is a bunch of knives that are also in process, followed by knives up here that are in process. So everywhere we look, we have different stages of knives. Okay, some with one hole in it, two holes in it. The reason for that is we don't have an operational CNC. Frankly, we just don't have the money to repair the CNC, and the guy that was supposed to repair the CNC reneged on it. He didn't repair it. So we had a 9-day warranty, and he refused to honor the warranty. So to recap everything and talk about it, we were asked to build a sample. The thickness was never determined, so we could not build or give you a price. So we built 4 samples. You look at them. Your knife is 1.25 inches thick Ours that we're going to build for you, that was decided, I believe, by Paul in consultation with Charlie, to give you at least 10 sharpenings. This will give you more than 10 sharpenings, but it was talked about at 10 sharpenings. Okay, so couldn't give you a price. Never did give you a price on the part per each. I did tell you that the material should come in somewhere around mid 40s to upper 40s, less heat treating. I did mention that. Okay. Now, Paul has expressed interest in making these things because I think he understands the extent of my financial plight and also my health. Personally, Paul's worked for me in the past as a machinist. He's run CNC equipment, so I don't think he'll have any major problems. I think y'all know how dependable Paul is. You don't have to call him at 2 in the morning to come get a load. He's there. Everything here is necessary to set up. I don't know if Tire Recyclers, I sent y'all an email, saying I would show you everything I had that relates to manufacturing these knives at around $57,000. I have told Paul that when he came up here, or he didn't come up here, but he called me and made me the offer to speed things along. He was thinking about buying the equipment. He didn't have the money to buy it outright, but the option, I guess, would be y'all could buy it outright, turn around and sell it to him, and then he could pay you monthly off of the loads that y'all give him. One of the things I will say about having the equipment on your site, Paul's a fairly good machinist and got a great mind and extremely mechanically inclined. He takes very little energy to teach Paul how to do something. So I think you know that probably already yourself, but it's worth talking about. These are the ones that we did, 4 samples, and you ended up with 20 of these knives, which we never got paid for, by the way, and we were promised to be paid for the samples, but I realize that we're millenniums behind on our delivery too. So anyhow, it is what it is. But you can, talk it over with Paul. I believe he's going to bring you a copy of the email I sent you, Charlie. And he asked me for something in writing. He says that Bill was claiming that the $33,000 was paid in full. I want to explain to you. You look at the colorization of the metal that y'all use. It's kind of a brownish kind of a tint. That's Rock Gut 8670 steel. This here, the material that I use, is a far greater quality of steel than what y'all are using. You can't imagine the difference. I guess you don't know, but it's a very, very distinct difference. So there's no way that I could have given you a price on a part that I didn't know which thickness is going to be. And you say, well, what's so important about the thickness? The thickness, if it's a 1/4 inch thicker, 4 knives is 1 inch, and 5 knives, you now have the weight of 1 more extra knife. Heat treaters charge you by the pound. If I could make a knife that was, say, this thickness, which is simply 1 1/4 inch thick, then it's quite different. I would machine it out of 1/2 inch material. I'm sorry, 1 1.5 inch material. Well, you can't buy no 1 5/8 inch thickness by 2. You can get a special run, or you might find some around. We couldn't find any. So what you have to do is you have to buy 2 inch thick and machine it down from, say, 2 inches, which would be way up here someplace, down to here, which is roughly 400 thousandths of metal coming off. You can't remove 400 thousandths in metal one pass. It requires 2 passes. If I was building this knife right here, which is the same knife that y'all are asking for, or you're getting from your manufacturer, which is right here, you can just see the difference in the steel. It's a different color, everything. But this steel here is cheaper. And if I was to make this knife, the knife that I sent as a sample, out of this material, you get the same longevity, but it would be able to be cheaper. But this knife could have been somewhere close to the price you're paying now, which I have never been told the truth on what you actually are paying. And I guess, that's kind of a top secret y'all want to keep to yourself, but it doesn't matter. The cost of a knife way up here, which is, give you about 10 to 12 regrinds, and don't let nobody tell you that if you go down to that thickness right there, the knife is now sharp as that knife. That knife there is sharp. Okay? Don't let no one tell you that that's not feasible, because that's the way that they sharpen nibblers and all kind of stuff. All you got to do is remove that dull part. Once you remove that dull part, you got a knife just like anybody else, sharp as anybody else. You do not have to slit them on the side. When you slit them on the side, you actually soften the material. I'll say again, you actually soften the material. You look there and you see that it was actually cut with a slitting saw. Okay, that was a slitting saw on that one. This one here appears to be like a burnishing tool. See how burnt it is? It's burnt. Okay, that's your knife that's been ground by, or should I say slit by somebody else. You see those little burn marks? Okay, those burn marks soften the material, soften it. You can keep on letting whoever it is do it, and you're going to see major dull spots like that. Those major dull spots are actually dull spots from where the material, every time you do it like this, it gets softer. I can prove that with a Rockwell tester. Okay? This material is different. All you got to do is knock a little bit off the top. Right here. It becomes like this and sharp again. You don't have to be a rocket science to understand that that's an easy call. And it really irritates me to deal with people in this business that make statements that you cannot sharpen off the top. People like that should be neutered. Make a stupid statement like that. Of course you can sharpen off the top. That's how it becomes sharp. From the first day you make it. Slitting off the side does the same thing, but it softens the material because you're using heat and friction. How much heat? You got to get above 2,800 degrees to use a friction saw. That's what it's called, friction. So, anyway, I've dealt with ignorant people before, and you can sharpen this knife by simply grinding off the top. Here's the R. Step right up. Step right up. All the way down. Okay? So Paul said that somebody said you cannot sharpen off the sides. Off the top. Here's an example of that sharpening off the sides. And that there is burnt. That's a burn mark. And that burn mark brings out carbon. It brings out all kinds of elements in the blade itself. And it softens it. I had this thing heat, and this right here you can see the little steps from the friction saw and little step marks in it. I don't know if you can see that or not, but they're there. You can see that one there right there clearly. But anyhow, I know I'm late. I know I'm behind. I know I'm a lot of damn things, but I'm not a liar. This here is not the way to do it. You're burning the blade. You're making it very easy to dull. There's all the dullness is caused by it. Look at the back of it even dulled. How do you dull the back of a knife that's up against the back of the plate? How do you do that? Please explain to me, how do you dull the back of the knife. There it is, dull. It's been dulled. The back of the knife. Why? Because the damn knife is soft, that's why. The best way to do it, don't hold it against me because I fell and not making this thing on delivery and thinking I'm kind of not intelligent, but you can see here, back of the knife, dull. Side of the knife, extremely dull, right there. You can see it. Okay? I hope you can see it. But anyhow, it's dull. The side of the knife is dull. There it is. The sides. The sides are dull. Okay? The reason they're dull